So, you can throw out a topic and I'll throw out a topic. That,
Yeah. Well, what the hell were we just talking about?
talk about Kansas City Chiefs.
That's right. That's right.
Pretty much born in the state of Washington, grew up in Kansas City. Kansas City is synonymous with my Chiefs. They won the Super Bowl my senior year, 69-70. My football team, high school football team, won the state championship the same year. The first one ever declared in 5A in the state of Kansas. Shawnee Mission North Indians. And they won it. I didn't play. I played basketball, track, and everything else. I almost won out my senior year, but what a great time it was for the city, for my high school, for my childhood. I take so many memories that made me the man I am today. And friends, I've kept 15 or 20 or grandparents today, still friends. And we had such a close, it was a big high school. We graduated 650 in our senior class. And so growing up there in Kansas City, and going to school there, and then coming back in the summertime to see my dad remarried. My family is third generation Buffalo. Jones and Moan's hardware store. My last name was Moan, obviously. And my grandmother, who was the matriarch of the family, lived till she was 3 weeks shy of her 100th birthday.
Wow.
And my uncle ran it until they sold it in the mid to late 70s. Out on the main street of Bothell. Like great memories, and that's what else formed me later in life. Family. Even though we were separated, we had a new dad on the plane as we were headed for Kansas City in 1955.
45?
55.
55.
I was born in 51. Obviously 4 years old. My two sisters, my mother, my new stepfather, but couldn't ask for a better stepfather as well as a stepmother in Seattle here. My mother and my father were married. So, a lot of things that make us, and knowing your background. Were you born here on Whidbey?
I was not.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I was not. I was born over in Redmond.
Okay.
And then we were living in Everett for my first few years of life.
Okay.
We moved to Montana for a few years, and then when I was about 7, we moved here to this rock on Whidbey Island.
Yeah.
And I've been here ever since.
Yeah. You still like it?
I do. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I miss my family. You mentioned family, and that's something that has always been very important to me. And I really miss them, and they're over on the other island in Hawaii.
I think eventually you'll get there.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Part of me is still there, and that's why I can only enjoy the beauty here so much.
Yeah.
Because a piece of me is still over with my family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really get that part because my friends, close friends, were my family in Kansas City. My senior year, my stepfather died. My twin sister went to the University of Washington. My oldest sister had already left for Christian College down in St. Louis. And it was just my mother and I. And
you were the youngest?
Well, I was a twin, but I was held back in school when I was hit head-on by a car when I was 8 years old. So my bike punctured my lung and my heart attack broke both my legs, contact fracture in my right. And it was springtime in our neighborhood, and it's an all Catholic neighborhood except for us. The amount of kids. And right in the intersection, there's a stop sign there now. It's coming around, I always carry 2 apples in my shirt.
You did?
Yeah, because I love apples. I'm on my PF flag, right? It's a bike.
Yeah, it's a good
Turn
bike.
that right corner. I never felt fear. Never since that intense. When I I saw that car for a split second. It was a 5,000 pound, I think it was an old mill Pontiac. It had the ornaments, remember they had angels on the hood? It had like an airplane with a point. It was a dual point, went into my chest.
No way.
Straight up. Punctured my lung and my heart sac. It's not hard by that much. Left a hole in it. Broke both my legs. Compound fracture of the right. I'm laying in the middle of the intersection. I'm watching my sister come from half a block down, leading kids and parents. Blood's pumping out of me. I'm looking at my bike over in the corner against the curb. It's crinkled. I just got it for Christmas, previous Christmas. You know, it's one of those. And, but I was going to the jungle gym up at the St. Pius Church, Catholic Church, and there was also a school, and this woman was coming from the Catholic Church, an older woman. But I turned that corner because it was a T, there was no stop sign, still should have slowed down. Anyhow, long story short.
Did the lady who was driving the car, what was her response? I mean,
she was, I didn't know, but my parents told me she didn't have insurance. This is 1958, 59.
whole different world.
Yeah, and they didn't sue or do any good and stuff like that.
Well, that's good. I mean, if they didn't need to, obviously, if they needed to, you know, people can take that action. But I imagine for just those split seconds, though, man, like that must have been just a trip.
I'll tell you we'll say when CNS came to me when I came to the Solid, you know what I mean by CNS?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a photographic memory. I got it from my mother, and I remember how I got the half moon scar on my knee was when it hit the fender. I remember they had me a scar right on my ankle. It hit the bottom of the fender when the front fender of the vehicle, and of course the half moon scar from the ornament going through, and then the compound fracture of my skin button. But you know, it was interesting to lead to how my sister went ahead in the 6th grade, and they're looking at Scotty. Everybody, we knew everybody, and they knew us. We were twins, and the whole neighborhood were kids back in those days, and parents and families. You knew them from now as you played sports. And they're looking at Scotty and said, "What are you still doing in 5th grade?" And your sister's
just blame
I didn't want to go to summer. I didn't want to go to school the next year because I knew those. And I got through it. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I met Josh, and it was just friends of this day that I played sports with and went to high school with, and it was really, if you played sports, and when you did or not, but most importantly, it taught you those social skills. It taught you those principles of good sportsmanship, of integrity, and all the self-respect and shaking hands after the game that I remember so well. I grew up, but most importantly, it created friendships. People you would have never met and kept friends, moving clear up to college. A lot of the kids went to the Shawnee Mission schools, and then went on to KU, Missouri or Kansas.
Can we take an interlude?
I'm sorry?
Can we take an interlude? Can we take an interlude?
Yeah.
You just kind of made my brain think of something here.
I gotta remember to stop me. If I get on this coffee, sometimes I don't like to. I like that.
We don't want your pacemaker to. Did you have to get a special one because of that hole in your chest from the bike? So
this is like my pack of cigarettes
Jesus.
in the shirt.
Well, this is worth. Hang on here. Damn, this is it right there. See that? This is it, and this is the whole conversation. The whole narrative is what makes us say "damn." And there it is. That is life.
But you know, thank God for it. And
So Scotty, the interlude I wanted to take, you and I are very different people, but we also have a lot of similarities.
True.
We're not, I mean, over and above our professions.
Yeah.
We have a lot of the same values.
Very true.
Which is very interesting to me because we were raised very differently.
Yeah.
Sports also was never a big part of my life. But what was a big part of my life was my father. Now, it seems to me, what I'm kind of hearing you say is you got a lot of the same things from sports, from being around your peers in an environment where you're both mutually there for the same reason. And so what is this doing to the children today who aren't even going to school, let alone being able to go and play soccer on the team or to go shoot some hoops, you know, or even go to chess club? None of this is going on. And so I can't imagine the children who don't have a good family life and what it's doing to them.
You know, it's a good point. Obviously, technology, good or bad, with a cell phone, with a computer,
Yeah.
I think it's great. But the flip side is I go outside and socialize, whether it was sports, whether it was in school. I was a very shy guy, very shy. And once I got to know people, I got comfortable and numerous friends. But that's, I think, the biggest ingredient of creating a healthy person is those social experiences. You got to experience emotions, whether it's female or male, or you're on the playing field and you're pushed to your limit. And I was passive aggressive. I'd have to get pissed off before I'd come and be really focused in. Today I've got it mastered without having to get upset.
Nice.
Being constant, but focusing in, I think most importantly, and it's one thing I didn't have, because a lot of trauma in my young life, and fear was in the back of it. But how are you going to focus when you got traumatized with car accidents, other things that happened to you?
Oh yeah.
But most importantly is what you said. Kids today have to really be self-motivated, push themselves out there. And that's not to say, back in my day, they weren't self-motivated. There was a little more clear road, whether it was drama, whether it was debate, whether it was athletics, whether it was just being you and finding music. Really brought us together. We grew up in an era, you know, in the 50s, 60s, 70s, incredible writers, incredible musicians.
Yeah.
I reflect how it applied today, some of the music, whether it's Dylan's, whether it's Springsteen, the Stones, Beatles, the English Invasion came. And then we had Motown. We had Motown. Yeah, Motown.
Yeah, Motown is where
and the Temptations and Smokey Robinson, and you throw in Sam Cooke and
get some Otis Redding in there.
And it all came together. And what a beautiful time. And you're throwing the Kansas City Chiefs out.
It sounds like Woodstock with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't around back then, but it's really refreshing to hear a narrative that you kind of hit the nail on the head to me.
Yeah.
There really was more possibility back then, and not that there was more to do, like there was more potential, there was more direction, there was more, but there was. You didn't have to rely so much on yourself as you do these days.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think older people have a hard time, you know, staying with it, man.
Yeah.
You know, things change. You've changed with things. Your hair is a testament to that.
I've noticed that, but I'll touch on They would call it The Innocent Age, a song by the Eagles.
Okay.
The Innocent Age is gone. That's basically talking about the 50s and then the 60s when the assassinations of Martin Luther, John, and Bobby, and then the Vietnam War, and then civil rights.
Oh.
We had curfew. They were burning cities.
Yes.
They got a movie now, the Chicago 7, that the people stood up. Abby Hoffman, Bobby Seals of the Black Panthers,
Yes.
Malcolm X, Martin Luther. They stood up, and they were willing to die for democracy, for freedom of rights. And
right.
the Chicago 7 took place in the Democratic Party, which was being held in 1968 in Chicago. And there was a guy named Mayor Daley, he was a tough guy. He brought National Guards.
John Daly?
And they, he told them shoot to kill. We're talking about our own college kids and a little older. And they killed 4 dead in Ohio. Four students at Kent State University. Okay. And they were just protesting no more war, no more separation of race. Bobby and John and Martin Luther wanted to do this. The so-called, I'm not going to call it white culture, I'm just going to call it whomever that controlled, they wanted to create this.
I call them the establishment.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are still there. A lot of them are still there, and the core values are there.
And what's driving them? Fear.
Somebody better tell them that.
Yeah. But all those 3 individuals, John was the white knight, 42 years old, average Catholic guy, become president of the United States. Beautiful wife, 2 kids, and then and then Bobby wanted to take on his legacy, take it a step further, and then Martin Luther, they wanted to stand up for the black man and woman to have equal rights and to come together.
And it all goes hand in hand, and it's so interesting to see the similarities today.
Yeah.
Last year, specifically.
Big time.
If we don't learn from history, let me put it this way, I feel like those same establishmentarians don't want us to learn from history.
Exactly. It's because they're afraid.
That's right.
I'm not going to say it, but I will. I felt like the white culture was afraid of a black man. Because back in that era, if you look at some of the, for whatever reason, we can name it all off, whatever reason, it still was wrong. Okay? But it's trying to, I think this COVID and everything else in this country and across the world, this Trump and his 4 years, Biden, what have you, I really believe divine intervention was set forth to have people step back and take a look at what they believed in and how they were going to carry out their beliefs and their actions. And I think it's a great opportunity to really speak of myself a lot deeper. And look at my motives as well as my values and how I strayed from those values that were real clear to me and still are, but they get muddled when you get involved with the situation, we'll call it, as A and D.
Well, Scotty, you brought up a few different points. There's a couple of ways I could go with it. What I kind of hear you saying is you're apprehensive to talk about white culture.
I don't like to pigeonhole it. You know, But back then, that was pretty much, and I didn't know it. No, I did know it at the time. I knew it in my guts.
Even then, I'll tell you, logically, the people I've talked to about this, and I've talked to a lot of different people about this, when you're raised in an environment that encourages racism, I mean, there was systemic racism in the system that everyone was operating with at that time. You can't hold any one individual more accountable than another. You know, my grandmother, bless her heart, Ruby Jane, she was a racist. She would be 99 years old today, but she passed away. And you know what? She wasn't a mean racist, but when she grew up, she had never seen anyone but a white person until she was 20 years old.
That's what she was programmed with, obviously, when she was growing up, as I call it.
So I think what I really want to shed some light on, I mean, people fail to take into account the environment is a huge variable that, you know, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we need to learn these lessons so we don't repeat the same mistakes. And unfortunately, we're seeing some of the same pitfalls that are being set up that as they were in the 50s, as they were in the 60s. I think more than just white culture, you know, today, I think it's a class war. I think there's a class war going on.
Well, let me interject before I forget this. What I experienced, I started on the West Coast. I was 4 years old. Didn't know nothing except I looked forward to my strawberry and peanut butter sandwich, which I couldn't stand strawberry jelly. Moved to the Midwest. New father, stepfather. Ninth grade education. Born in farmer's son in Nebraska. Conservative, but one of the smartest men I ever met. One of the most hard-working men I ever met. I'd come back to the West Coast to visit my real father, my new stepmother, who was a teacher, very intelligent. She was going to be a doctor, beautiful, statuesque woman, black hair, blue eyes, 5'11".
Wow. And
my father, come out of Bothell, he was a 3-sport star, and worked second down from the Port of Seattle, as assistant general manager. You know? So what I'm getting to, and I had a twin sister. Went off to the University of Washington. I went off to the University of Kansas. Okay, you got the Midwest, kind of conservative, the Bible Belt. We're in the 50s, we're in the 60s, we're in the 70s. And you come, this goofy, tall kid, Ken comes to the West Coast, and
wow,
you're on it. It's wide open. Buddhism. I wasn't brought up in a Christian home. Okay, we go to church on Easter and Christmas, you know. But then my sister started funneling things to me about what we're talking about white culture, about questioning authority, about, and that's what the 60s were all about.
Free thinking.
Exactly. And so I had the best of both worlds. And then I come out here for 10, 11 years. I went back after a couple of years to high school class reunion, 4 years. I see how conservative my classmates, even my buddies, you know, they all married, been married 40, 50 years. They took out a pretty wide open, most of them, they're still very open-minded, progressive thinking, okay? But they still got a touch of that Midwest conservatism. I saw when Vietnam was playing out on our little black and white TV in the 60s, I saw the lynchings that were broadcast down in Alabama, wherever. I saw the riots on TV, and I felt, man, this is wrong. I felt bad for my black brothers and sisters. But I didn't have the aggressiveness to really step up and march or do whatever. What I did is I looked up. But I checked.
Say it again.
I drop out. And not necessarily with A&D, it was just,
No one can judge, I mean, you know,
But-
no one can judge that.
you know, and then, but I saw a point and I just knew, you know in your guts, if you're brought up with right and wrong, as we talked about, and you're brought up with family. I had two different families, but I knew love. I knew about love because they loved us. They showed it over and above all the other experiences, not so pleasant throughout my childhood before. We're all given those, you know, learning experiences along the way, or to reinforce what we already knew intuitively. And so,
And there it is there.
yeah, but then it can be kind of confusing if you're young.
It is confusing, Scotty.
I'm 69, it's still confusing.
Yeah. But you got the gift of hindsight there, brother. You got the gift of
I was
hindsight.
left-handed. I was born left-handed, so was my sister. And of course, we thought we were going to rule the world lefty, but it was a righty world. So,
Well, it almost sounds like, and this can be another avenue we could choose to go down or not.
yeah.
It almost sounds like you had an optimal life for questioning your identity. Like, you had one identity here, you had another identity here. Did you ever struggle with an identity crisis?
Well, in a way, yeah. But thank God for it. I was given that opportunity of free will that we talk about, and then also seeing through some of my experiences, whether being hit by that car, so many other things that happened, good and bad, of God's will. I'm seeing our divine intervention. Whether I knew it or not, I obviously didn't back, or I kind of did, but it took those tough times to really acknowledge. But still, when you're brought up, they talk about give up yourself, well, not necessarily give up, but acknowledge God's will more. I didn't probably, but you're taught to be independent. You're taught to be an independent thinker. You're taught to be self-motivated. You're taught and to make something of your life. And back in those days, and I'm sure the same would apply today.
No, absolutely not. It wouldn't apply today.
Okay,
I'll tell you what applies today. What applies today, man, is they do not want free thinkers. They do not want people who are independent. They don't want people who question the facts. You know, they don't want anyone to go against the grain. And what I'm afraid of, and part of what inspires me to go out and start these conversations with people, you know, these are difficult conversations, but we need to have them.
Definitely.
And to acknowledge that we need to have them, and then choose not to because they're difficult.
Yeah.
We're going to be set up for a real terrible future here pretty soon if we continue playing this out. And what we're seeing, or what I'm seeing, you know, Donald Trump, take him or leave him, love him or like him, he was the president of the United States. While he was the sitting president of the United States, he was deplatformed off of every single social media site. He was literally censored, I think, more than any other American ever has been ever.
Exactly.
While he was president. And so we talk about them being afraid. A lot of these actions are coming from fear. I think, and I'm going to say it right here, I think the days of the free internet are over.
I would agree with you.
We're going to see some regulations like we've never seen before. And I will say it again, this is what I believe. I think it's due to the actions on 1/6/21. And I'm not saying who's responsible for those actions. But what I am saying is, I think that day will go down in history. The same way September 11th, 2001 went down in history. And then from that, we got the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act was the biggest infringement on our rights that has happened in my lifetime, our freedoms.
Our freedom, exactly.
And so what I'm seeing play out for the second time in my life, a Patriot Act 2.0. And it's going to be the end of free speech on social media. And that is a really dangerous road, Scotty.
Big time, big time. What I look at, I really believe Don in his heart, don't know him personally, but he loves the United States of America. He wanted to do the best he could. And people kept talking about it. He's going to clean the swamp of all the corporate control of our government that has escalated since the 60s and forward. You saw how the systematic thing, this is just my theory, and I'm sure not on other people, that it may be bullshit. And been watching it through those decades in my lifetime. You come out of the 50s, because you're essentially the innocent age, and you believed, your doctor, or you prescribe this, or a politician, or the President of the United States with Harry S. Truman from Independence,
Harry
Missouri.
Truman?
Yeah.
Speak up a little bit there.
From Independence, Missouri, or Dwight D. Eisenhower from Abilene, Kansas. Okay. And then you come to the 60s, and you go 70s, 80s, and come forth. And I've watched what you just have stated. Taking the freedom, our God-given rights, and they don't apply anymore. And so I could sit here and compare this to the socialist takeover, whether it be in Nazi Germany, Philippines, wherever. But coming to pass as
The signs are
in this
here.
country.
The signs are here. The signs are here.
Yeah.
And I'll start this next sentence with, I'm definitely not a Marxist, but I understand their logic. Okay.
I was just reading
Okay.
on Marx and Lenin's and.
I don't understand how people can say communism is good, we just haven't tried it successfully yet. Okay, because we have tried it and it's ended devastatingly. And so that's another thing that, can it be accomplished? Maybe. Do we want to go down that road and find out? Probably not. And that's from somebody who considers themselves, at least last year, a democratic socialist. But what I've seen is so much. What I've seen has caused me to step back and maybe identify more as a true independent, if there is such a thing.
Yeah. A friend of mine expressed the same thing of a client, and he was involved with government contracts and different things. And he's about my age, 69 years old. He's seen it all, been on his own since he was 14. And he's had all variety of experiences. Well-read man. He's saying the same thing. He's saying the rights and the freedom of our rights are taken. The door's open. The barn door is wide open for them to come in, whomever they are, to come in and say, in China, they barricade some people in their houses where they can't get out without them asking or for whatever reason. And they're not prisoners or anything like that. They might catch a glimpse of them believing in something other than the communist movement that China adheres to. They can do so.
I think, Scotty, we can let these ladies have the heater, and we will continue this maybe in a second episode. So we'll wrap up here. Just give us a few minutes here for closing.
Sure.
What I want to do is kind of give you the floor there, Scott Moe. I really appreciate you just chopping it up with me, you know? There might be a lot of years between us. There might be a lot of other things between us, maybe a couple fist fights in the past. Definitely some hugs and some tears shed. We'd go back. Anyway, just take it away, man. What do you want to, if you could just have 2 minutes to say whatever the hell you wanted to say, what would it be?
Most importantly, turn a negative in your mind to a positive. Most importantly, take just the next 24 hours and allow whomever, the God of the universe, Buddha, Christ, whomever, to kind of come in and allow your spirit to be quiet and to go about your day and looking for different, whether it's a people, situation, or a place, you're placed. But more than anything, hey, how you doing today? To a stranger. Hey, call a friend. Reconnect so it gets you out of that, the dumps or whatever it is that might keep your mindset closed. Open it up. Pray, meditate every day throughout the day. Write things out and keep anger and fear at bay. And you'll see the willingness to come forth, and you'll see a lot of positive things, and all we can do is better ourselves. Old Oprah's old saying, you know better, you do better. And it's so true. And so, most importantly, Cameron, I value our friendship, and in closing, you've helped me to think, and you brought me to my knees of understanding. You're the first one to touch on a guy named Ventura and what I've been going through for 25 years. Whatever reason, I've turned it to be a positive, but it was hell on earth to start out with. But I'm honored to have been given that and to learn more about me. But most importantly, to see you progress forward, and we all progress forward. And there's an old saying, good friends, we'd have dinner, we'd bless him before dinner, we'd always hold hands, then we'd say, shake the love around. Thanks, my friend.
I love you, brother.
You too, buddy.
Damn talk.